I don't know what's going to happen in Brooklyn. Like, it's just too many moving parts to kind of really predict the future of the Nets. I mean, think about this, right? Like, Kevin Durant is starting to break down. So is LeBron James. Like, they're older. They've put a lot of miles on their bodies, right? KD can't stay healthy for a full year now. We're at the point now where Durant can no longer give you 70 games a year. That's where we're at. He probably should be closer to about 60, 55 games a year. I don't know how Kevin Durant's going to physically hold up. We know he puts in the work. Kevin Durant's workouts are legendary, by the way. But the thing is, he's got a small frame. And, he's still 7 feet tall. We still got to treat him like a 7-footer because he's still 6'11", nearly 7 feet tall. So, and he on the perimeter, he dribbles a lot, right? So we still got to look at him as a 7-footer as he ages, even though he doesn't feel like a 7-footer. When you look at Ben Simmons, I don't know where the brother's at. We ain't seen him play in months. My guess is he probably still can't shoot. And the Kyrie Irving thing, I mean, I can't predict Kyrie. I've never been able to predict Kyrie. I mean, what if he just wakes up one day and gets vaccinated? I'm assuming that won't be the case. What if New York lifts the mandate? What if Eric Adams come? What if they just lift the mandate? And then Kyrie Irving's free to play basketball. That's a big deal. Those are unpredictable things, right? That's too much for me to predict. And by the way, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if Steve Nash just steps away from head coach. It's been a stressful year and a half for Steve as a head coach. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if he doesn't coach that team going forward. There's too much to predict in Brooklyn. Philadelphia's different. I could literally tell you this 6 months ago that somehow, some way, James Harden would end up in Philly. Look at what's already in Philly. Michael Rubin, the co-owner of the Sixers, one of their owners. Michael Rubin is cool with Meek Mill and Lil Baby, two of James Harden's closest friends. Michael Rubin is cool with a lot of black celebrities. That's his thing, right? He goes to all the Rock Nation parties. He's the one white guy at all the parties. You're like, what? All these black guys, all these rappers. It is one guy. That's Michael Rubin's thing. He does that. That's who he is. Robert Kraft somehow is mixed in with that, whatever. Don't ask me. I don't know. Daryl Morey. I mean, come on now. We know what James Harden and Daryl Morey is. They're like best buds. Heck, when Daryl left Houston, he literally, I'm not making this up, he wrote a letter to James Harden nearly professing his love. He's like apologizing to Harden. He's like, yo, I'm sorry, James. I want to go be with my daughter. Like he's like professing his love to Harden. They love each other. Okay, all that was already in Philly with a top 5 player in the world in Joel Embiid right now. Philly, I'm assuming the clubs are maybe a little better than Brooklyn. It's still the East Coast. But I think the clubs might be a little better, better than Brooklyn. And then they got them private jets that they can get their hands on and get right to the South after any game they want to. Because, Harden's cool with the owners. I could have told you a year ago that Harden was going to end up in Philly at some point. I didn't know when. Didn't believe it to be today, but I knew it was coming. And I brought that up to say, so I can't tell you every chapter that's in this book of James Harden in Philadelphia, but I knew chapter 1, he'll get to Philly, and I know the last chapter, whether it be chapter 8, chapter 10, chapter 12. I don't know how many chapters this book has, but I do know how this book ends already. What was it called? Spark Notes? I read the Spark Notes back in the day. I went right to the end and read the Spark Notes. I do have a theory on how this would end. Anybody, if you just think about it, how you can see how this one's going to end. Okay, look at the setup. You got Joel Embiid playing at MVP level. He's going to probably not win MVP this year because the Nets now have James Harden. If you look at how they're going to have to play, just the way Harden demands the basketball, his numbers are going to be up. Harden can rebound well, obviously pass well. Embiid will lose a couple assists a game, maybe a rebound or two a game, maybe. Definitely a couple points a game because Harden is a guaranteed 22 to 28 points a night. Embiid's probably not going to win MVP this year, and he was going after it. It probably will be Nikola Jokic again. It probably will be that. So Embiid's not going to win MVP, even though he was primed to do it. He was well on his way. He was right there. So he's not going to win MVP. Okay, James might be closer to all of the Philly owners than Embiid already, and he never played a game in Philly. We know Michael Rubin for a fact. There's no way Joel Embiid is as tight with Michael Rubin as James Harden is. I just find that hard to believe. I find that impossible, honestly. So you got a guy in Harden that's got the owner's ear. He doesn't work nearly as hard as Joel Embiid, who we used to question his work ethic 3 years ago. But Embiid, over the last couple years, after crying against the loss to the Raptors and all that, the brother has lost some weight. I don't think he's lost a crap ton of weight, but you could clearly see Embiid has made changes to his body. He looks smaller, right? He looks smaller. You could clearly see the brother has done something to get in better shape, right? Like he's done something for sure. He's changed something about his life. I don't know what exactly and how much. Clearly he's changed. I mean, he's playing more games. He's not as injured as often. I mean, the brother's been balling this year. So you got the setup is Embiid now watches James Harden rise to the number one most important piece in Philadelphia, even though Embiid is clear as day the best player in Philadelphia. Okay, if the Sixers don't win a championship, at least get to the NBA Finals, and we're playing blame game, and Harden has his normal triple-double, but doesn't make shots in the fourth quarter, and Embiid maybe struggles a game or two, I don't know. Can't you already see this going south? I told one of my friends earlier in the day, I said, this feels like Kobe and Shaq in a way. Towards the end, like when Kobe was finally taking the reins from Shaq as the best player on that team and pretty much the best player in the league. The only problem is the big man is the guard in this scenario, and the guard is the big man. Joel Embiid is the younger, to me, feels like Kobe Bryant on the rise, while James Harden is the Shaquille O'Neal in this scenario. Popular, just one of the most popular athletes in all time. Notoriously known for knocking down a lot of women. You know what I mean? Doesn't work as hard, a little out of shape. Remember, that was one of Kobe's biggest things with Shaq was like, yo, you got to get in better shape. Harden looks like he could lose a few pounds. I could lose a few pounds. I know, and I don't play professional basketball. Harden definitely could lose a few pounds. Doesn't take it as serious as he could. As great as Shaq was, a lot of people believe Shaq has left a lot on the table because his body, right? You could kind of see this one having a Shaq Kobe-like end to it. The only difference, and here's what would scare me if I'm a Sixers fan, a Joel Embiid fan, is Kobe had that Lakers organization's ear at the end. He had Dr. Buss's ear, right? They rolled with the younger superstar. I don't know in a year or two from now who will have Philly's ear. I would assume James Harden. Also, Embiid is in his prime right now. If you mix in an injury or two to Joel Embiid, it's going to get a little scary here, right? Because if you're looking at today, who's better, Embiid is clearly better, more impactful than Harden. But when you mix in an injury or two to Embiid, I mean, it's going to get really murky. You see where I'm going with this in Philadelphia? I literally can see the last chapter in this book. I just don't know the fluff. Are they going to be able to get past Giannis and the Bucks in the playoffs? Are they going to have to go up against Kyrie Irving, KD, and the Nets? That would be a great series, by the way. There's a lot of fluff that I don't know. I don't know those chapters yet, just because things got to play out. But I do think I know that last chapter. Joel Embiid and James Harden are destined for an ugly breakup. I believe that. This is going to be an ugly breakup. And I don't know if it means James Harden will bounce again. Could he potentially get Joel Embiid traded? I mean, it sounds a little crazy today. It won't sound that crazy a year or two from now. You got my word on that. This will be a video that you play back for years to come. This will be an ugly breakup. I just don't know what's the fluff. I'm telling y'all right now, Philadelphia, I know in theory you think you got a much better score with James over Ben Simmons. And I'll give you that every night of the regular season, minutes 1 through 46. But in the postseason, the problems that Harden has in a lot of the regular season in the last 2 minutes becomes his entire 1 through 48 in the postseason. Ben Simmons and James Harden are not too much different in the playoffs. That's a hot take that people don't want to talk about. They're not too much different. Neither one of them want to shoot the dang ball. And you couple that up with other things that Harden may have in his favor, the end of this story in Philadelphia will be loud and tough.